Hello, everyone. Welcome to this very, very special AMA. You're going to be joined here by me, Kenny, and Joseph from the Right Stream team. And we're very proud to welcome the Tari team, who are going to be featured on the upcoming CryptoKnights show, the Shark Tank Web3 show. And we're very, very excited and privileged to have them on. So, Tari team, welcome. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. My name is Naveen, and I'm a contributor to Tari, and I am an actual pony.
Yeah, and I'm Ricardo, otherwise more commonly known as Fluffy Pony, and I'm not an actual pony. Shock and horror.
There we go. Everyone's represented here.
We're inclusive. We're very inclusive here in the Tari community.
Yeah, exactly. Ponies and not ponies.
Exactly. All are welcome. Absolutely.
Okay, so I think the people are streaming in right now, right?
Yeah, people are jumping in now.
You know, Ricardo and Naveen, it always takes a while for people to start tuning in. You know, so let me just check how's it going.
Yeah, things look to be going on now. So yeah,
Okay.
guys. Yeah, cool. Yeah. We'll have to forgive Joseph's camera. His internet is having a bit of a problem. It's so he might be freezing for you. You'll be able to hear him perfectly fine, but he'll be frame by frame, 1 frame per second. So I hope that's all right with you guys. So anyway, let's get going. With on the introductions. Let's just let us know, because we know your ponies are not ponies, but let's dive into each other. Your background, your curriculum vitae, your CV. Like, tell us about your background, about yourselves, really.
I think we should let the not an actual pony go first.
Sure. So, you know, I started life in a field with daisies. No. So I have I started doing a degree and dropped out after 2 years because I was like, this is nonsense. Why am I doing a degree? Total waste of time. And just started building things whilst working as a software developer. I was a very mediocre software developer. I was good at some things and very average at others. But I guess, like, you know, writing stuff for like financial institutions is not super exciting, and so it didn't really spark anything in me. But had a bunch of side hustles, and eventually one of them popped off, and I built a successful import-export business, and that gave me some free time. And so in early 2011, I discovered Bitcoin, and was a little bit obsessed with proving that Bitcoin was broken. And so I spent a lot of time trying to break Bitcoin, because I was convinced that it could never work and that there were fundamental flaws in the assumptions that Satoshi had made. And in doing so, I proved to myself that it could work. And then built a bunch of things in this space. I built a payment gateway. I created created and designed an open air stackable, flat packable frame for CPU and GPU miners. And I guess most famously, I was the lead maintainer on Monero from its outset till 2019, when I stepped back to build more things. And that's how Naveen and I met each other, was through Monero, and got involved in building this cool thing called Tari.
Yeah, and my background is I studied computer engineering at a university here in the States, dropped out after a year, and started building my first company, which was actually in the music industry. So I had the opportunity to work with amazing artists on, you know, all of their digital marketing and websites, e-commerce, you know, community development, all kinds of different activities to help them, you know, sort of really connect with superfans, which is really the core of that business. Bootstrapped it to 8 figures in revenue, then went on to build my next company in the logistics space, bootstrapped that to mid 7 figures in revenue, then started angel investing in companies, and built many different types of products over the course of time, and got into crypto in 2016, also with Monero. So I was mining Monero and really just fell in love with the ethos of the project, and the community. Really felt that it was like a place for me, and then had the opportunity to meet Ricardo when he was traveling in the States, and we I think connected. Immediately realized we were cut from the same cloth on many levels, and decided to start working on Tari together soon thereafter.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. So could you tell us a little bit about Tari, to those who are unaware? I mean,
Yeah,
I would like to know like what you're building, and tell us like the ins and outs of it.
sure. Yeah, so Tari is a layer 1 blockchain protocol with many very unique attributes and elements. So the first thing I'll say about Tari that's really important to know is that Tari is a dual layer system, and the layer 1, the sort of foundational layer of the system, is proof of work, similar to Bitcoin or Monero or other historical proof of work protocols. What's unique about Tari's proof of work model, though, is that it's sort of a hybrid model. So it's 50% SHA-3, which is more optimized for GPUs, and eventually people can make custom silicon to mine that side of Tari. And then the other side is using a hashing algorithm called RandomX, which means that it's more CPU optimized and more ASIC resistant. And that's really cool because people can mine Tari with their everyday computers. And we think that's really important because in the crypto industry today, most of the protocols that launch are using a security model called proof of stake. And proof of stake struggles with distribution. Like, it's really, really hard to distribute tokens in a fair way with proof of stake. There's lots of like Sybil attack, bot issues, all kinds of different issues. And we think that accessibility is like a really, really important part of these systems, because you want to have a vast community of people that have a stake, that have a connection, that have ownership, that believe in this system. And we think that ASIC resistant proof of work is actually the best model in the world to achieve that outcome. If you really think about proof of stake systems, there's only 3 ways to acquire a token, right? Like, 1 is to be like some sort of early investor supporter. 2 is to farm an airdrop, and 3 is to buy someone else's tokens, right? And if you think about that, if you learn about a proof of stake token like down the road, really the only way to participate is to buy someone else's tokens, and that's like a lot of friction. Whereas with Tari, the goal is you'll literally just be able to post up with your existing laptop or desktop and start mining Tari, and that's incredible. Now, proof of work protocols have there's a set of trade-offs here around sort of the security model and the way it works, and then also things like performance. Proof of work protocols are historically not very performant, and so we have this native layer 2 for Tari that is like really, really fast, really, really high performance, really low fee. So it's like something that you can actually use to build incredible applications that ultimately one day millions of people hopefully will be able to use these sorts of applications built on Tari. And that's sort of like a really, really sort of unique construction for a new layer 1 protocol. Rick, do you maybe want to talk about the layer 2?
Yeah, so one of the sort of big challenges that we've identified is that a lot of blockchain protocols scale by brute force. It's like, well, if you want to scale, you just got to throw more compute power at it, which is kind of a dumb way to scale, because it's always going to have an upper bound, and you're always going to have ebbs and flows where people come in and there's a lot of excitement about a particular project or system or something like that. Maybe it's some ticket sale that goes on, and now there's a massive influx of users. And if your upper bound in scaling is just like how fast is the fastest computer or the slowest computer in the network, that's not ideal. And so the way that Tari's L2 works, which we're calling the oodle, the way the oodle works is, which is a great name for it, is by harnessing something called Cerberus. And the way to think of Cerberus is, imagine it's a city with a number of neighborhoods. And each of those neighborhoods, it participates in, helping the city build and move ahead and do its thing. And each neighborhood can have a school and a fire department and a police station and all sorts of things. And when you want to scale the city, when you want to increase the number of people in the city, you don't try and put them into the existing neighborhoods. You just add another neighborhood. And that's exactly how Tari works. That's how Tari's oodle scales. Is instead of scaling based on like a single the speed of a single computer, you can just add more computers to the oodle, and the more computers there are, the more transactions per second can be processed by the oodle. And that is really a fascinating model, and it solves what is commonly referred to as the blockchain scalability trilemma, something that was previously viewed as unsolvable. And we're really grateful for the researchers that just created and discovered and invented Cerberus. And we've taken Cerberus and added our own flavor to it. We use a consensus mechanism called Hot Stuff, which is a practical Byzantine fault tolerance consensus mechanism. I'm sure everyone that's watching this AMA understood all of those words.
100%.
The point really is that it's super fast, super performant, super scalable, and it doesn't require every participant in the oodle to be running like a supercomputer in their basement, like that costs $50,000.
Yeah, another element of the oodle and of sort of the Tari ethos is this concept around building a protocol that really supports applications that can meet users where they are. So I think a lot of the challenges that we have in the crypto space tend to be people are architecting protocols and products exclusively for crypto natives, right? Like exclusively for people who already exist in the crypto space, trade tokens, buy tokens, speculate on tokens, and they're sort of not really as focused on, well, how does the rest of the world participate in these sorts of systems, and how do you make it feel accessible to those people and actually something that they can understand and something that meets their existing sort of understanding of the world. And one of the areas where I think the existing protocols really fail and struggle is around confidentiality. It's like a really important thing, as it relates to the movement of value, the movement of money around the world. If you really kind of zoom out and think about it, we all have a meaningful amount of confidentiality around our sort of financial lives, right? Like there's no online tool that I can use to see your bank balance or your transaction amounts on your credit card, or if you run a business, you don't have a situation where employee A can see how much many other employees are getting paid. You can have a situation where if you're running a business, customer A can see what customer B and C pays for the product or service. You can't like go into a grocery store or a drugstore and see what the cost of goods is for every single product, or see what the retail markup is. So if you really kind of zoom out and think about it, like there's trillions of dollars of value that move around the world every single day in a largely like confidential manner, peer to peer. And that's like really, really important because it's sort of a prerequisite for capitalism. And yet the most popular protocols in the world have no confidentiality features whatsoever, right? So you kind of really zoom out and think about it and you say, okay, well, who are these protocols built for? And the answer is not for humanity or the real world. The answer is for crypto natives. And that's cool. Like that's like totally fine. That's a fairly large audience. You can build an awesome protocol or crypto product for that audience. But if you really want to be more ambitious and think like bigger than that, you have to sit here and say, well, gosh, how do we really meet users where they are? How do we allow people to like, work and use this sort of protocol without changing all of the underlying assumptions for them? Now, like, do you really want to create a world where every single transaction that someone conducts in the system is a scarlet letter? That doesn't really make sense, right? Like, why would you want to create a world like that where a transaction you did 10 years ago or 7 years ago is now being brought up, for one reason or another? And you start to think about it, it's like, not only is it a freedom issue, but it's just like a practical issue, right? It's a practicality issue. And so Tari has this sort of very unique sort of set of or framework, if you will, around how we think about confidentiality. And the way we sort of think about it is that it's a spectrum, right? So it's not a binary set of outcomes, right? So there are protocols in our industry today that sort of treat this as more of a binary set of outcomes, whereas we don't actually think that's like very pragmatic necessarily. So the way Tari works is Tari is default confidential peer-to-peer, right? So if I send you value, you send me value on Tari, then like you can't use some block explorer, some fancy online tool to derive very much information about those transactions. But token issuers and app developers on Tari can design their smart contracts in a manner where they can have more visibility into the transaction graph for their tokens, and that way they can address compliance or other sorts of needs that they have. Because whenever you're talking about a system where value is moving around, compliance really matters, and you want to enable entrepreneurs to build applications that meet users where they are on one hand, and the other hand can be supportive of whatever the compliance regime is wherever they're based. And Tari has sort of this very unique perspective that I think a lot of other protocols don't really have. And then the final thing we'll say about Tari in this sort of long-winded introduction to Tari is, and this gets back to meeting users where they are, is it's just the user experience, right? So if you think about how most decentralized applications work in the existing crypto economy, they're really hard to use, like really, really, really difficult to use. So if you think about it as like a number of steps, so in back in the Web 2 world, and like when you're building traditional software products, the way you think about it is say, okay, every step you add to a user journey, you're going to cut your conversion rate by at least 50%. Okay, that's like the normal way to think about it. That's why whenever you buy a product from like a online store, they really try to minimize the number of steps. They minimize the amount of information they collect to the best of their ability. They minimize the number of steps because they really want you to get through the process. They want you to buy the darn thing, whatever the thing is. And yet in the crypto world, we've normalized this world where things just take an extraordinary number of steps, right? So a very common flow looks something like this. You visit a decentralized application, you click on Connect Wallet, the wallet will load up on your browser, you authorize read-only access to your wallet because the application needs to connect your wallet. Then you come back to the application, you click on buy or swap or spend or whatever the action is that you want to take. Then you have to authorize the max spend limit for whatever token you're using in your wallet. And you actually have to pay a transaction fee to authorize that max spend limit, which is confusing. Okay, and then you come back to the application, you click on buy, swap, spend, whatever, and then you finally get to sign the transaction. So it's a minimum of like 6 or 7 steps to do your very first transaction on pretty much any decentralized application, or many decentralized applications. Some are a little better than others in this regard. And that's wild, right? That's wild if you think about it. If you're like, okay, wait, we want to create a new layer of the internet that ultimately millions and millions and millions of people can use. Well, is it really a reasonable expectation that people are going to be willing to go through all of these steps, all of these fiery hoops to do a thing, like whatever the thing is that they want to do? And we just don't think that's like a reasonable expectation. So one of the things that we're working on quietly behind the scenes, there's like contributors to Tari that are working on this, is we have this really interesting thing, which I'll show a sneak peek. We've not shared this with anyone publicly, guys, so it's kind of like a special moment. But we're working, and this is like an example of how we think about a user experience. So Kenny, can you bring this up? Is that possible? All right. So this is a prototype for a project that a group of contributors in the Tari ecosystem are working on that has the code name of Tari Universe. So Tari Universe is this very interesting application that is like one part launcher, one part wallet, and one part miner, right? So you can mine Tari directly from this application. So imagine something that looks a little bit like this. So here's your desktop window, and here is Tari Universe. You load up the application. And I want to be clear, it's like super rough prototype, so like lots of work to be done here. Okay, so you have this really kind of interesting looking interface. You have like the ability to mine Tari. Again, you can mine Tari from your existing computer, your laptop, your desktop. Right here, you can just turn on the miner if you want to mine some Tari. Which is really cool if you think about it, because that's so much easier to acquire some tokens than going through the whole process of going through an exchange, right? Like it's much easier to just mine some Tari if you can. You have your wallet here, maybe some like data around your mining performance, and something that looks a lot like an app store, right?
Yeah.
And if you think about like the connection of all these things, you can do really wild things in terms of the user experience to make it much easier for a consumer. So for example, say there's a Tari application, we call Tari applications tablets. So imagine, there's this tablet, you want to add it to your favorites, you click on the star button and it gets added to your favorites bar over here. Now imagine you want to install a new tablet and use it for the very first time. Imagine you install it, which, maybe you download some HTML package with this application by installing it, and it brings up a little modal that gives you like an emoji verifier, similar to making a call on something like Telegram, where it shows a little emojis, so you know that you're actually talking to the right person. In this way, you know that, oh, I'm actually installing the right application. You can see it says like, oh, we automatically granted read-only access to these 12 tokens in your wallet. Well, that's really interesting because that saves a step, right? Already you've cut, a step in terms of the typical process for using a decentralized application. And what's cool about this is it also introduces another user experience paradigm that's really important, which is, well, how do you revoke the permissions? Well, in some blockchain ecosystems, you actually have to visit a separate website to revoke the permissions, which is not intuitive. Whereas one of the goals for the folks who are working on Tari Universe is they want to create a world where if you just uninstall the application, it automatically revokes the permissions, just like uninstalling an application on your iPhone, your Android phone, which makes sense, right? That's intuitive. That's something that people would expect to have happen, right? Okay, so you've installed this application now. Now what? Well, the application will load up, and let's pretend like this is some application you might use to make some trades, like a perp dex or something on Tari. So say you want to go and make a trade or go long on some token, which is great. That's fine. Now, there's one thing that's missing from this interface that we just want to call out, which is we're working on an interface for transaction simulation. So the idea here is that you've got your wallet right here, and there are other wallets out there that actually do a very, very good job of this, and we want to improve upon that to the best of our ability, or at least the community does, where we can actually show you, like, okay, based on this proposed or planned transaction that you're hoping to do on Tari, what's going to happen to your wallet? Because ultimately we want to keep users safe, right? So you don't want to have a world where someone does a transaction with a rogue or malicious application and then all their tokens are gone, their wallet gets drained. Like, that's a terrible user experience. It happens every day in the crypto world, and it's terrible. It's like not easy to use, not fun for the user. So one way to solve that problem is to build like a really beautiful interface around simulating the transaction. Okay, so if you do this transaction, here is a simulation of what's going to happen in your wallet. So that's something that is missing from this interface right now, that the community or the team members, the folks behind the scenes who are kind of working on this, contributors are designing, they're figuring that part out. Because the idea is that when you click the swap button, assuming you like what's going to happen to your wallet, the transaction gets signed and you're done, right? So you can, the dream state, and this is again very ambitious and this is very aspirational. I want to be like really clear about this, like super aspirational. The goal is to get to a world where, like, gosh, people can just do transactions on Tari in 1 or 2 steps, and they don't have to do 10 steps or 12 steps. And again, the goal here is meet users they are. Make it easy for people to use this new technology, to use these decentralized applications that have the potential to change the world, and don't make them jump through 10 fiery hoops to do it. So those are some.
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead, Rex.
I was just going to add, like, one of the models that we used for this sort of UX interaction is when you install an application on your phone, or at least when you start it up for the first time, and it says like, oh, this wants to send you notifications and it wants to, get your location when the app is open and it needs to access your contacts, and you're like, yes, yes, yes. It doesn't then ask you every single time. I mean, like, and that's effectively like the way crypto works right now is like, the same app is like bugging you like 3,000 times. Like, oh, you visited the website, click sign. Why am I signing? Why am I signing this message to like authenticate me? That's wild. And we've almost created a culture where people just click yes. They just go sign, 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 sign. And then they lose all their money because they signed a malicious transaction or a malicious message without realizing it. And they're shocked. And it's what I find almost embarrassing to us as an industry is the number of times I see threads where people go, I lost all my money, but I didn't do anything stupid. I've got a hardware wallet. I didn't sign. I promise I didn't click anything like bad. And when you dig into their history, you go like, oh, yes, you did. You visited this malicious website and you clicked the sign button in MetaMask. Like, it's just, we've created a stupid culture, and Tari Universe is a way to extricate ourselves from that and create applications that actually work for people.
Yeah, another thing that's really important to know about this like idea of Tari Universe is it also solves a major challenge for developers, right? So one of the biggest challenges in the industry is just getting users for your application. If you really think about how the crypto world works, you have to pay users. You have to pay users a lot in order to like get distribution for your application, right? And when you build applications on top of other protocols, there's no like inherent distribution for those applications. And as a result, also, the protocol, the foundations or other folks around protocols are paying developers a lot, in sort of grants and other sorts of things to like build applications, on these protocols, especially new protocols. And if you kind of zoom out and think about it, that's not how the real world works. Like the way the real world works is if you want to build an application for like the iPhone, the developer usually pays. You have to pay to be a developer for like, iOS. You have to pay to be a developer for Sony PlayStation or these other, sort of like existing large platforms. And so one of the things that's really interesting about Tari Universe, and obviously like the Tari ecosystem is not here to like charge developers or anything like that. But the idea is like, well, maybe we can create a world where developers can get better access to the Tari community through Tari Universe. Like imagine a world where they can just, submit a pull request on GitHub for an index for something like Tari Universe, and then their application, can be featured. If the community wants it to be featured, then it can be featured here. And now all of a sudden, all the people that have Tari Universe installed can see the application and actually like use the application. They can go mine a little bit of Tari and go immediately to start using the application, which is really cool. Like that doesn't exist anywhere else. Like typically the way it works with other protocols is the only marketing or promotion or distribution developers get is like a tweet. That's all they get is you can't call them tweets now. What do you, an X? You get an X. That's all you get. You get one X, maybe two X's, maybe three if you're lucky, and that's it. And to us, that doesn't make any sense. It's like, well, how do you create a world that is really pro-developer, that really, makes it better and easier for developers to get in front of the community with their applications so that people can actually use the applications that they pour their, heart and soul into. And so we think that Tari Universe is like a very novel invention in this industry, and it actually solves multiple challenges just through like an elegant design.
Amazing. I want to take one step back, and talk about how we met.
Sure.
So one of my tasks is to try to find the projects to come onto the show, right? So to some of you guys who are just tuning in, and I see a lot of these people not in our community, so they may not know what's going on. The reason why we're having this AMA is because we're having this show called CryptoKnights, right? It's a Web3 Shark Tank TV show, all right? And we've been working on it. We started some early filming, some early pre-production filming outside of the studios, and we've got some distributions locked in already. So I was actually talking to one of our knights. So the knights in the show are called, the judges in the show are called knights, and one of them is Brian D. Evans, right? So I was having a chat with Brian. I said, Brian, do you know any good projects out there? So Brian said, hey, have you checked out Tari? I said, no, I haven't. Tell me about them. So he told me about them. I was a little bit worried at first because it seemed like, will this work on TV? It's layer one. It just feels, it's complicated, right? It's all that confidentiality stuff and all that. To me, it was exciting. I loved it, So I said, hell, you know what? I really do want to meet them. I want to check it out. So he introduced it and we got on a call. And I told Naveen about the show. I told him what we're trying to do. I told him how we're trying to simplify Web3 and crypto and bring it to a massive audience. And we need to be able to tell that story in a simple way, and Naveen did a fantastic job, right? So he kind of explained it to me and showed me how he can present it in a simple way. And I said, how about call to actions? Is that a simple call to action? And I saw his eyes light up. And you can understand why his eyes lit up, because the whole time this AMA, he's talking about, easy call to actions, easy to convert, easy to get the user, right? I think that's their MO, right? So when I say, hey, Naveen, no, we got to have some simple way, simple call to action for the user so they can quickly do something and use your product. And he said, yeah, they can just click mine. Any computer, any computer can just come in and just start mining straight away. I was like, wow, I was blown away, right? I've never seen, I never met a layer one who could explain stuff to me in a simple way, right? Because ultimately, yes, we want to bring in, the premise of the show is we want to bring in the best of the best startups for this year, present it and put it out there, but we want to make this easy to sell, right? To the viewers, right? And one thing I wanted to share was Tari, when we filmed the sizzle reel, okay, and I think our community knows this. For those who don't know this, we did film a sizzle reel. A sizzle reel is kind of like a synopsis, a 3 to 4 minute synopsis, which we send to the networks so that they kind of like, it's just one step of the approval process with the networks. They get to see the full synopsis for the show. It's a bit long. It gets into the details, into the weeds, but I think it was really well done. So Tari was one of the projects that we selected to be in the sizzle reel with 2 more, right? And I think some of you have already seen parts of the sizzle reel, but what I'm going to do today is I'm going to play the entire sizzle reel, because I think you got to see it because Naveen did a fantastic job, right? The producer came back and said, Naveen's a rock star. Amazing. Let me tell you guys something, right? When I have to select projects and bring it to the producer and they will do casting calls with them, then they'll call me back, Joseph, are you sure? Can you find someone? Because, they reject so many people before we can accept someone for the show, right? It's difficult, but thankfully we have Tari, a good project, a sexy project, simple to explain project, and Naveen did a fantastic job, So we did the sizzle reel I think it was last month, it's all hazy. We didn't have a studio, guys. We didn't have full visual effects. We didn't have, the voiceover guy and all that. But, I think we want to put something together, just a concept to send to the networks. And we're going to play the entire reel for you right now. Kenny, want to go ahead?
Okay, here we go. Full sizzle reel.
The blockchain and crypto revolution is fundamentally changing the world as we know it. The top entrepreneurial forces from the cryptoverse are on a mission to bring the best projects to life for the better of humanity. Universally, they are known as the CryptoKnights. Entrepreneurial titan Magnus Grimeland, Harvard grad who went to school with Zuckerberg. Crypto visionary Jay Dow. This man has done it all and is a total legend in blockchain. Forbes 30 under 30, Alyssa Tsai. She's the future of crypto with a highly influential voice. Forbes 40 under 40, Brian D. Evans. His millions of followers on social rely on him for his invaluable advice.
What I'm really excited about with CryptoKnights is the world to finally learn about blockchain, crypto, Web3, NFTs, and really educate them about what's going on. So essentially, this is like Shark Tank for the future with crypto and Web3.
In this trailblazing TV series from an Emmy Award-nominated team, unearthed talent from all walks of life will earn a shot with the CryptoKnights.
I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I studied computer engineering at Purdue. I dropped out after only a year, and then I bootstrapped my first company to 8 figures in revenue in the music industry.
My personal background started in Germany. I grew up there, went then to Berkeley to study AI. The opportunity of CryptoKnights came to me at a perfect timing, because now everybody's excited about crypto. Everybody is seeing Bitcoin go up. So I wanted to tell them about our story, our solution, and help them enter this space.
I grew up in New Zealand, a place called Waihi in the Northern Island, and it was a gold mining town. I ended up finding my feet in the blockchain area. We're seen as like a boy wonder.
CryptoKnights will be the first mainstream series to showcase how budding disruptors within the space are using cutting-edge technology to enrich, entertain, and change the game.
Social media platform has sold our personal data for trillions of dollars. Imagine a world where that data and that money could go into your own pocket.
Throughout the series, hopeful projects will be attempting to convince the Knights they're worthy of investment.
Tari is a revolutionary blockchain protocol that will forever change how we think about the movement of value on Earth.
We're giving everyday users the building blocks and the instructions to build their own custom AI agents.
All you need to do is attach your social media to Bluewhale, and then you can make money right away.
What makes your product unique?
Ownership. The users of our platform will own their data.
Describe the business opportunity.
Tari is one of the highest profile projects in the industry. We would love to have you involved as the final investors in Tari.
What is your valuation when it comes to the blockchain?
So how much are you trying to raise?
Are you profitable? What's in it for me?
CryptoKnights brings a sense of adventure, a buzzing social following, and high production value to create a one-of-a-kind series with a truly global appeal.
So Knights, let's work together. We need your help and support. We need your reach.
I'm asking for $500,000 for 2% stake.
And the valuation is about $25 million.
I think your valuation's a little high, so I'm out.
You need to do something which is bigger, that can really impact the world.
I'm very into this project and I like to invest.
That's incredible.
Let's go!
The let's go at the end always gets me, right? So that was quite well done. So guys, this is not something for public release. This is something we sent to the networks, but we only share this in the AMAs, and this is the first time we actually shared the whole thing. And Naveen, you did a fantastic job. Guys, this was green screen, there was no studio, everyone was in different locations. It was really hard to do, but I think the networks, they really like it a lot. So that's good. So, well done to Tari for doing an amazing job. We will have more reality filming. I think, Naveen, you're asking for end of May, right?
That's right.
Yeah. I have to get back to you on that one. There's so much logistics to figure out in South Africa, right? So I think we should be okay with that one. I have a call with Sam coming up. But there you go. I mean, the whole part of the show is like try to sell this as simply as possible. And I think in the sizzle reel, you said you're one of the most high-profile projects out there. And why do you say that?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, there's many different trade-offs and design decisions people are making with these like protocols. But anytime you're rolling out a new layer one, it's definitely like a higher profile thing than something that's like a sub layer on top of something else, because it's really the creation of an entire new universe. think about it this way. And if you're launching something that's a layer on top of something else, it's sort of launching like a planet with an existing solar system. Like it's something that exists within an existing universe, where Tari is quite literally a brand new universe. And so as a result, it immediately takes on sort of like a higher profile within sort of the industry, and all the people that are involved with Tari, all the incredible contributors. I mean, it's like really just remarkable, the group of people, the people that are spending their time, every waking moment thinking about Tari, whether it's people in this industry who are more investor types, or people who are developer types, or creatives. It's kind of remarkable to see the sort of birth of this new universe happen before your very eyes.
All right, cool. So I know that we've done this introduction has been the longest introduction we've ever had so far. It's in 40 minutes into the AMA. I think we now need to get to the, thanks. Someone said, when does the AMA start? Thanks for pointing it out. Yeah. So typically the way we do this is, you can just see all the questions in the panel on the right. Maybe Kenny, you can find some questions. So you guys, you want to scan through any particular questions, just pick it out and tell us, and then you guys can start answering those questions. That's how I do it. I just scan through, like, okay, that's a good question, and I just go ahead and answer it. Do you want to choose, or should we choose one for you?
I mean, you choose.
Okay.
We can choose.
All right. So there's one question from. Okay, it's a tradition for us. The first question is always by Kezia, right? He's in our community. He's always in every AMA. So he asked this question about where is that? How is it different from Caspar? Caspar also solves trilemma.
Rick, have you heard of Caspar?
Caspar's a DAG. Yeah. So like DAGs are tangentially related, but at the end of the day, we've had DAGs now for and DAGs are direct acyclic graphs. We've had DAGs in blockchain for a long time, for many years, and they've just not really proven to be quite as scalable as we'd hoped. I will say as well, one of the big challenges with something like this is it's not enough to just solve a part of it. You can't just say, well, we solved like storage. Like, we use Mimblewimble on like Tari's base layer, and Mimblewimble solves a lot of the storage woes associated with that, but it doesn't solve everything. It doesn't solve the fact that you still have to share transaction data amongst all of the base layer nodes, and that flood fill mechanism is a massive resource hog from a bandwidth perspective. And so that's the upper bound that we're gonna hit on the base layer from a scalability perspective, is like, what does everyone's bandwidth looks like? What does the latency look like? And where the UTL is different is that it tackles the scalability trilemma in a very unique way. I think, sadly, with 16 minutes left in this AMA, I don't have time to dig into everything. But if you are interested in really digging into Tari from a technical perspective, then rfc.tari.com has all of the Tari RFCs, and those RFCs obviously go pretty deep from a technical perspective, and it's worth reading if you are a technical person and you want to really understand what makes it different, and why DAGs are not, or have not at this point, proven to solve the scalability trilemma versus what we're doing with Tari.
Okay, let's go on to the next question. I think we got one from Martin. What are the big catalysts that are coming for Tari over the next 6 months?
Yeah, I think there are many catalysts for something like Tari. First thing, of course, is just a main network launch. Just putting Tari out there in a way where people are aware of Tari, people are excited about Tari, and people can actually participate. Again, using this concept of ASIC resistant proof of work, mining. So I think that's like a really important catalyst. Second is there's some really amazing applications that we're starting to see emerge on Tari that, again, you can't really build anywhere else because, as I stated earlier, if you're not meeting users where they are in terms of both the user experience and, peer-to-peer confidentiality, then it actually like cuts you off from many different types of applications that people would actually want to build. So there's like really incredible applications being built in the creator economy, where creators like TikTok creators or Instagram creators can be paid in a much higher frequency, compensated for boosting other people's posts, using like stable coins issued on Tari that are confidential, because at the end of the day, a lot of those payments people don't want just to have out there in the open. For example, there's really interesting applications being built in the music industry that are really interesting. I mean, there's like many things that are happening. There's really interesting applications in DeFi. So like one of the things that's really interesting about confidentiality when you think about DeFi is most top traders in our industry have hundreds of wallets. Why do they have hundreds of wallets? Because they don't want anyone to see all of their transactions as they do their transactions. So we actually sat down with one of like the super top traders in the industry when we were in Dubai, and we asked him, we said, hey, how many wallets do you have? He said, I have like over 500 wallets. I was like, whoa, 500 wallets, that's crazy. And then I asked, like, how much time are you spending just managing all of these crazy wallets? And he sat there, he thought about it. He's like, gosh, probably like several hours a week. I was like, man, that's a lot of time. You're spending an enormous amount of time. You could be spending, up to hundreds of hours a year just manipulating and managing wallets because you just don't want people seeing all of your transactions. And so that's like a huge deal on Tari, where, you can't really easily see someone's balances or transaction amounts. Or, another major challenge is front running. MEV is a huge issue in our industry. And it's not to say that Tari will be, MEV free, but it's to say that it's harder. It's harder to like front run a transaction when there's less data available in a mempool, for someone to build a bot to front run people's transactions. So I think there's like lots of really interesting things you can do with a protocol like Tari that you just really can't do elsewhere, that are like massive user experience changes and benefits for a wide range of users. And it really starts with this like several different core concepts which we already talked about, that are native to Tari, that are not native to other protocols.
Okay, cool. Let's go to the next question. Go to this one by Fox Piacenti. What's the best way to get started on development?
Yeah, so we have we actually have a testnet for the Oodle that is coming very soon. And there will be some very early templates. So Rick, do you want to maybe talk about composable templates, like the goal for like the developer UX?
Yeah, 100%. So one of the challenges that we've seen in this space is that typically smart contract or programmable blockchains take one of two approaches. They either go, well, it needs to be secure, so we're going to use this like very weird programming language. It's like based on whatever. It's based on Rust, or based on, I don't know, like Basic or something really weird, in order to tie developers into a more secure coding style, defensive programming style. The other approach they take is they go, who needs security? It's based on JavaScript. Now every web developer is a smart contract developer. And then you just end up with a mess where there's like reentrancy attacks for days. And welcome to EVM compatible chains. That's just that's the bed that they've made that they unfortunately have to sleep in. And they are trying other language approaches, but we think that the other language approach is not really the solution. what we wanted to accomplish with Tari's programmability is to solve two things: make it secure and sort of, push developers into being secure by default, defensive programming by default, and that sort of thing, but also make it hyper accessible. And the sort of vision that we have for this is something called templates and template composability. So imagine a series of templates, and your developer interface is like being able to drag a bunch of building blocks into the interface, connect them together, and say, oh, well, it interacts in this way. Like, if this happens, then do this. But it's all visual. And that means that even if you're not really a developer, even if you don't really understand software development, it's kind of like those development IDEs that kids have in school. Before they even write a line of code, they're dragging things around. They're learning like the building blocks of programming, and that allows you to create, well, pretty much almost anything on Tari just by composing these different building blocks together, these templates together. And of course, if you are a developer who is already familiar with a lot of these paradigms, you can forego that and just write your own template from scratch using Rust, because we've really leaned into a lot of the type safety and memory safety aspects of Rust, and found that from a performance perspective, that really helps us. Now, that's not something that's going to be available imminently, but it's something that we're working towards. Of course, templates are available right now and will be available on the Oodle testnet. But that sort of graphical developer interface is something that we're still working towards, and is sort of a phase 2 after the Oodle has actually gone through its paces on testnets.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Let's go on. The questions are really starting to come in right now. Let's go into the next one by Rambolina175. What are the transaction fees, gas going to look like on Tari?
Pony?
Yeah, sure. I mean, like, it's obviously again, there's two different layers. Yeah. So the L1 is maybe a little bit more traditional, and has some dynamic aspects to it on the fee side. Excuse me. And then the Oodle obviously scales very differently, and fees end up being defined by validators and on a sort of per taplet basis rather than being global. And so, yeah, I mean, like, you can imagine something that just doesn't require a great deal of processing power on validators, on the group of validators that's processing that. They're not going to need to charge a high fee. And we think that will lead to a much better user experience than what we have right now, which is, quite frankly, just untenable if we want to bring another billion users into this ecosystem.
Okay, cool. I'm going to go to some more questions. One by he said, is Tari EVM compatible?
No.
Nope.
No, it's totally distinct, totally different. Now, there may be a contributor or set of contributors in the future that will write some sort of EVM translation system. How that actually works, we'll have to see. It's something that we've spoken about in the past as contributors. It might be like drop your smart contract in, and we'll transliterate it into a Rust-based template. But like, the conversion path will be a little bit chunky, especially for users who currently own, let's say, a token on an EVM chain, and then the chain wants to, or that EVM project wants to move over to Tari. But it is something that there's multiple contributors thinking about that and thinking about a transition path so that projects can actually go, we're migrating to Tari. This is how you receive your tokens, NFTs, whatever it is, on Tari once we've migrated.
Okay. And there is a follow-up question by CryptoBits. He says, proof of work chains usually have 51% attack chance. How are you going to solve this? Is it decentralized enough?
Yeah, great question. So as Naveen said earlier, there's actually two separate parts to Tari's mining. There is one that is pure double SHA-3, leans into ASICs and so on. And there's another portion that's RandomX and is merge mined. And that's really powerful because it means that without mining literally 100% of the blocks on one of those two sides, you're never going to be able to come even close to 50%. And so if you, let's say that in a hypothetical attack scenario, an attacker managed to procure, build, whatever, rent a significant number of double SHA-3 ASICs, which obviously don't exist right now, they still wouldn't be able to overpower all of the existing double SHA-3 miners on the network. And so, you know, I can't imagine a scenario where that attacker would be able to achieve more than maybe 15 or 20% of the hash rate. So that is something that we have thought about. I'm not going to sit here and say it's impossible, but it would require a significant level of compute power on the RandomX side and a significant level of compute power on the double SHA-3 side. And those are so distinct that it's almost impossible that an attacker would be able to do both of those simultaneously.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
when you look at something like you know, Tari Universe as a prototype, it's very fascinating, right? Because it actually helps solve this like potential challenge, right? Because like the more distribution something like Tari Universe has, the more people that choose to mine Tari and participate in the Tari ecosystem, you know, the harder, the costlier it becomes for just that side of the fence, you know, for someone to like dominate just the RandomX side. And then you need entirely different hardware to dominate the SHA-3 side of the fence, right? You know, you need like GPUs or FPGAs or ASICs to dominate that side of the fence. So it makes it like more difficult, like far more difficult for someone to 51% attack the network.
Cool. All right. I see another question here by Fox. Fox has put in quite a lot of questions. I think he's going to give, he and Casey are like the top two. So he says, yeah, I remember an early version of Tari's programming paradigm said that. Yeah, you got the question. Can you guys read it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the OODL absolutely is you know, is Turing complete. Like you can construct these templates in Rust, and you know, there's been evolution. You know, there's been a lot of evolution to the construction and architecture for Tari over time, and we recognize how important it is for people to build like real applications on top of Tari. So they'll be able to do that using composable templates that already exist, you know, from the library of templates, or they'll be able to construct their own templates if something is like net new that doesn't already exist.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't remember us ever saying that Tari wouldn't be Turing complete. That might have been a comment more related to the base layer. Mimblewimble does not have a lot of options for programmability or scripting. We have got Tari script on the base layer, which does allow for some light scripting, but the aim is really just you know, some light scripting in order to support L2 functionality when it pegs back into the L1, and not like an overarching, like, you know, scripting language for the L1.
Awesome. So good that you get to address it here now. Let's see. Casey, another question by Casey. Okay, this is a CryptoKnights question. All right. How important do you see CryptoKnights in Tari's journey of growth? The show is going to be broadcast over 100 million audience. That's crazy marketing. Are you guys shilling equally? All right, guys, up to you.
You want us to answer that question?
Yeah. They're asking you, right? How important do you see?
Oh, how important? Oh, well, look, we're so honored to have the opportunity to like be a part of CryptoKnights. I mean, yeah, of course, it's a phenomenal opportunity to educate people about Tari and share the mission and vision for Tari. And, you know, we're really blessed, really lucky to be able to do that. So, you know, thank you to you guys on the CryptoKnights team for, you know, including us. And we're really excited to have that opportunity to share Tari with the world.
Yeah, likewise. I mean, you know, it's a lot of work. I mean, the Tari team has been really, really phenomenal. They've been we know there's a lot of things about dates and things and productions, and they've been really, really, supporting. And actually, all the projects have been with us have been really, really supporting. And I think everyone is doing their bit to promote leading up to the show. Filming will start soon, guys. The sizzle reel you saw was just a mock-up. Okay, don't say, "Oh, I think Tari got this and whoever got that." No, it's just a mock-up. The actual filming of the show has not started yet. Okay, so there we go. Let's see what else. I think we take one last question, right? We are on the hour. One last question.
We've done an hour now.
Some really good comments. I'm seeing some good comments. People saying amazing project. They love the AMA. They love the questions. There's one last question because I don't know the answer to this question as well. From Monster Cat CEO, what are YATs and how will they be part of the Tari ecosystem? What are YATs?
Yachts. Rick, what's a yacht?
What's that?
What isn't a yacht?
Pony, right?
Which yacht is yat? No. So for those that don't know, yats are an aliasing system that we invented, that Naveen and I invented and launched a few years ago. A yat is an identity for the internet that is based on emojis. So imagine if instead of your email address or your Instagram handle or X handle, because we can't call it Twitter anymore, instead of it being letters and numbers, and it's normally something like, let's be honest, it's normally something idiotic like, your name plus the year you were born, which is entirely unprofound. Or it's something silly like Fluffy Pony, which is really meaningful to English speakers and totally meaningless to people who speak another language. Imagine if it was a string of emojis. So yats are between 1 and 5 emojis, buy once, own forever. And they're an integral part of the Tari ecosystem because it's your Tari address. It's a way to have a much shorter Tari address, a much more meaningful Tari address that you can also use on the internet as a form of identity in other ways. So you can use it as a redirect to your domain. You can use it as a way to create a page with links to the various places you are on the internet. We have native support for it in Opera. So if you use Opera, the browser, you can literally just put someone's yat straight into the address bar and hit enter, and it'll work. And we have y.at subdomains for and sort of / addresses for every other browser. It's really cool, and we think it's an amazing way to identify yourself on the internet and to communicate something about you to people who are interacting with you in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, it's really funny and incredibly cool when you meet people who own yats and to see their face light up when they tell you the story of their yacht. It's like one of the coolest things that I get to do on a regular basis. It's like, oh, well, what's your yacht? And then they someone who maybe lives in Canada is like really into ice hockey or something, and their yacht includes like a hockey stick, or someone who's really really into a particular animal, like Fluffy Pony here, and like they get to celebrate that in their yacht. It's really fun, and emojis are a universal language, right? Like that's one of the cool things about this like concept is that 90% of online or internet users use emojis like every day of their lives, whenever they're sending text messages to their loved ones and friends or whatever it is. So emojis are like this global universal language that actually were originally born in Japan and have now turned into like a global phenomenon. So to be able to like harness emojis as your internet identity, we think is like incredibly cool, and it's absolutely like a cornerstone component to the overall Tari ecosystem.
Awesome. I think this is a nice place to wrap up, a nice place to end the AMA. I think some really good top questions here. I think we missed one or two, but I think it's pretty much answered in the earlier introductory bits, so I think we're good. Thanks everyone for all your questions, and Naveen, Rick, thank you so much for your time. Thanks so much for being part of the sizzle reel. Really appreciate that.
Of course.
Looking forward to the reality filming. Let's see when it happens. I think we'll try to schedule you in for end of May. I'll let you know when the studio filming is happening. I gave you some indicative dates. I'm not going to reveal it right now, but you guys do know what the indicative dates.
It's soon.
I will get back to you with a confirmation on that. Really looking forward to it. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Kenny,
Thank you for having us. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
See you. Bye.